Japan just fired their stunningly unpopular prime minister, replacing him with a new guy who in just a few short months will be just as stunningly unpopular. Why? Because Japan has gone so far down the government spending path that its political system is no longer serving the people, it is serving the debt. In other words, they're backed into a corner of debt. Now, you may recall last June at the G7 meeting of the U.S., Canada, Japan, and a bunch of Europeans, the one where Biden wandered off and everybody followed him to cover his butt. Well, something else fun out of that G7 was the memes listing all of the leaders' approval ratings. And it was pretty bad. Joe Biden was sporting a negative 19, as in many more voters disapprove than approve. As bad as Joe was, it went downhill fast. France's Macron had a minus 31. Canada's Trudeau was negative 38. Japan was negative 40. Britain and Germany were actually below minus 50. Chlamydia probably polls better in Britain and Germany. Of course, this all begs how so-called liberal democracies got so corrupt they anoint leaders the people overwhelmingly reject. I mean, isn't that the whole point of democracy? Still, no leader is forever, even bad ones, and this week it is Japan's turn as the spectacularly unpopular Kishida stepped down in the face of approval ratings of 15%, that's 1-5. So why are Japanese upset? The immediate reason was a corruption scandal, but then pretty much everybody is corrupt in Japanese politics, suggesting the real reason is because the Japanese government has proved utterly incapable of stabilizing the economy and public finances, which is endangering the national pension system, even as taxes and debt keep mounting. To the point Japan's uniparty is importing 800,000 unskilled laborers to prop up national pensions. I know, even Japan. So the useless Kishida had to go. Unfortunately, they swapped in a guy who's been in politics for 40 years, whose main selling point is he's a calming choice for the geriatrics who mismanage Japan's economy. So will the new guy change anything? In short, no, because Japan's economic policy is at this point largely out of its hands. Thanks to levels of debt that are truly epic, in U.S. terms, Japan would have a national debt of over $70 trillion, rising at $1.6 trillion per year. And so Japan has become an effective debt colony. To illustrate what this has done to Japanese politics, the new guy Ishiba came in with big talk about normalizing interest rates, strengthening the yen, cutting spending, and Japan taking on more of its defense, since after all, it's a grown-up country. Alas, all of that evaporated overnight, with Ishiba sheepishly admitting it's just more of the same. Because as bad as the Japanese economy is for the people of Japan, the special interests, so Japan's banks, construction companies, and big exporters, are all perfectly comfortable with the way things are, with trillion-dollar deficits, zero interest rates that impoverish Japanese savers, and yes, with Uncle Sucker paying for Japan's defense. So what's next? Brought to you by Unchained.com. What's happening in Japan is happening across the West. We're maybe 10 or 15 years behind. And in Japan as the West, turning it around would take radical change, slashing government spending, slashing the scope and scale of government to free up entrepreneurship. Of course, given this all goes against deep-pocketed donors, in Japan as in the West, these are choices that may be necessary, but in the absence of a Trump-like disruptor, will be delayed as long as possible. Okay, we'll be watching. See you next time.